I just went in the order of the panel members that were listed on the website. So I think Sam would be next. Sam Stehle. I may not be pronouncing that correctly. It'll be I believe he might be online, or is he in person?
I'm here. I am in person.
Oh, great, great. I see you. All right. I'll just give you a brief introduction. Sam is a data scientist at the U.S. Department of State Center for Analytics. He develops interactive dashboards and analytical products with machine learning. He improves data management policies with bureaus across the State Department. This includes work in cybersecurity, Eurasian and Asian Pacific affairs, and diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion, DEIA efforts. So super interesting job, I'd say. Previously, Sam worked in the FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, and he managed spatial data and GIS projects for probably a lot of the natural disasters that we've had. He analyzed demographic data and hazard risk indices to contribute to equity projects. And he worked the logistics for the Maryland COVID-19 vaccination mission. So I'll leave it at that. You can read the rest of his bio online, and I'll let you go ahead with your presentation, Sam.
Thank you. Yes, I'm excited to be here, and thanks for the invitation to come speak about some of the previous work I've done before becoming part of the federal government as a geospatial data manager and a data scientist. This is some of this will probably not be new concepts to a lot of you. You're probably using Agile every day, but I wanted to kind of bring in a couple of concepts of user stories and user-centered design and Agile, and give one example from a postdoc I did at Maynooth University in the Building City Dashboards project with Rob Kitchen and Chris Brunsden and Martin Charlton. So I hesitate to say that these are going to be strategies about including more empathy in development projects, in research, but maybe opportunities to generate empathy on a project scale. That's kind of where I want to come at this from empathy for the users in the development life cycle of the project. So the mantra of user-centered design, I guess it kind of all starts with know the user, and to me that's a phrase used in user-centered design, but essentially it means be empathetical to the user. And user is kind of a fraught term because it's vague. It dissociates the developer, the analyst from the person, the end user. So I'm going to kind of table that for a moment because a user is a specific term, a specific person in the idea of user-centered design. So for now, I'm kind of going to use it as a group of people that will ultimately be creating meaning from the analytics, the product that you're creating. But we can come to that discussion in the future or afterward. So empathy mapping, I think, is a concept that is used in user-centered design that tries to translate the observations of users using a tool into something that is more usable for them. You create empathy with the user by watching them interact with the tool. What are they seeing while they're interacting with it? So we're kind of going around in this circle. It might be a bit small to see, but the first thing we want to start with the user in the center. It's user-centered design. So the user is in the very middle. How are they feeling about interacting with this tool, about using this tool and its capabilities? What are they saying? What are they doing while they're interacting with the tool? What are they hearing? And kind of and again, the empathy is the feeling. What are their pain points? What are they gaining while they're interacting with this tool? So this creates a shared understanding between the user of the tool and the developer of the tool. So you're making sure you're not missing that critical interaction. But this is kind of one part of it. I'm talking about this as a user observation, but if you integrate a survey and interact a one-on-one with the user, ask them about their experience. I think we've all done this at some point with research projects, with development projects. You get at some things that they may not even know that they're interacting with on the tool. So I'm going to get into that in my example here about this disconnect between what they're saying and what you're observing that they're doing. It was one of the key points of this this research that I did with fellow postdocs at Maynooth University, led by Gareth Young. We were seeking to understand whether virtual reality could be used in the geography classroom to better understand geomorphological concepts. So we had teams of 3 students, 1 user inside the HTC Vive headset. They had a little room to interact with a scene that presented some geographical region that demonstrated this geomorphological concept. So the other 2 students were looking at the screen, were reading the lesson plan and giving direction to the person in the headset while they're moving around the virtual environment. And the instructor was also behind them offering advice, and 3 researchers on the project were observing the students. 1 focused on observing and giving technical advice to the student in the headset, the other 2 watching the other student participants. So we use this method, and these are, by the way, all of our observations as the students are working around inside of virtual reality, as well as some of their students, their colleagues who are not in the environment but on the team. And kind of how they're interacting, awkwardly cautious, and feeling about using this environment. So we're trying to get at a couple of things, trying to understand the novelty of the system as a teaching tool, the individuality of it, because only one person can be in the environment at a time, and how is this useful? So we created from this heuristics to guide the development of virtual reality in the classroom, but our real interesting part was these nuggets of understanding. When we spoke to the students after observing them, they would tell us, "Yeah, this is great. I thought it was very smooth. It was not difficult to interact with. I was very familiar with this," while we're watching, and they're struggling to figure out how their movements create something in the environment. So there's a disconnect there. These nuggets of understanding say they're telling us one thing but acting in a different way. And so hoping that that kind of gives us a greater opportunity to see how they're interacting, to be empathetic with those students. Really quick, I want to just kind of go really quickly through the heuristics, because again, we're trying to determine how well this technique will work in the classroom. And these are kind of some questions that we think are important to ask based on our observations. How does it facilitate collaboration? We need to ask these questions because, again, it's an individual at a time in the system. But students were very well able to collaborate and speak with one another and give directions and, "No, it's over there. I know you probably can't see it because of peripheral vision and things." So these are questions that, again, we saw a very interesting correlation with people who use virtual reality outside of the classroom to play video games and other things, and feeling very confident about their interactions in the system, but maybe observing something a little bit different because now we're moving this environment into the classroom, providing a different context. So as I was writing this and kind of feeling proud about empathy mapping and kind of taking this concept, we're in a spatial conference and mapping, realizing that this is one large dose of empathy at the end of a project. We've already developed the program, where the classroom content. We'd developed the interactivity, the course questions. So it's a theme that's come up throughout this conference. How do we inject the empathy throughout the period of the project? So with that, I wanted to bring up agile methods, because this is something that I'm kind of curious who has worked or does work regularly with agile methods for development. And yeah, okay, quite a few. So I'll give a quick overview, and the idea of agile versus typical, say, waterfall method. The waterfall method gets you step by step. It's very sequential. We do this so that we can do that, so that we can do that. An agile method is iterative. We set up a sprint cycle, which can be a week, it can be 2 weeks, in which we have a very specific set of tasks to do. And at the end of that sprint cycle, we come back, we do a sprint retrospective. How did this work? How did we work as a team? And this weekly structure allows us to work with a product owner or a user to tell us how things are going, how the process is creating our goals, is creating a deliverable. So this whole agile process is built around participation. It's built around the team being together every day, doing a stand-up. What did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? But more importantly, these roles of Scrum Master and Product Owner are opportunities to bring in different perspectives to the project. The Product Owner is a part of the user group who will say, we need to do more to work toward this deliverable. This week we need to work on this. So building in these other perspectives. It's also built around user stories. And at the very beginning of the project and throughout the project, that's why, again, this iterative component, we get to revisit user stories. As a blank, I want blank so that I can blank. So where more opportunities, again, this in itself is not empathetical, but it creates opportunities to be empathetic with the user and ask how improve the process. And finally, the sprint retrospective. As I said, at the end of every cycle, you go back and you get together with the team and you take the user out of the equation and say, how did this work? Not like, how do we do? Did we accomplish the task we said we were going to do? It's more, do we have the things that we need to collaborate to be a useful team together? How are we working together as a team? And this internal empathy, I think, is a really important point that frankly often gets looked, and in my experience has gotten overlooked in the agile methods. So this is just kind of an attempt at mapping some of the agile concepts with some of the things that we've been thinking about here in this conference, and how to bring empathy into that. I'm not going to kind of dwell on many of these because I'm not trying to say that agile is the solution to all of this, but the user stories, user engagement are all opportunities to bring in to generate empathy among users, among the teammates, and use that representation to perhaps correct some of the faults when there isn't enough empathy. So kind of as a conclusion, Agile has continued to tell me that not only is the user the only end of a product, but the analyst, the researcher, the developer should also be considered a user. We're also important to the process. We're injecting our own bias, our own feelings into the system of creating a tool. So again, going back to a user story is important, but to say the user is the only important entity throughout this process perhaps ignores a lot of important opportunities to generate empathy. Thanks.